Winterkin, daughter of sorrow and snow. Long ago, in a land brushed white by early snow, a couple sought silence. Not the peace of quiet woods, but the hush that follows heartbreak. Mabel and Jack had lost their only child, and with her, the rhythm of joy. They came to the edge of the world, not to begin again, but to forget what could not be undone. Jack, sturdy and solemn, turned the earth with calloused hands. Mabel, pale as milk glass, watched the horizon and did not speak, but some griefs root deeper in silence. The land did not welcome them, it endured them. The soil was thin, the trees close, and the silence unyielding. Jack rose before the sun and buried himself in labour. The earth did not soften under his hands. Mabel remained indoors, tending to what little there was. No child's cry, no laughter. Only the hiss of the kettle and the ticking of a clock too loud in its solitude. We were meant to grow old with her, she thought once, folding a baby dress that had never been worn. One moonlit night, Mabel said to Jack, "Let's go out and build her." "Who?" Jack asked. "Our snow girl," she replied. So they knelt together on the cold ground, shaping their sorrow with bare hands. Mabel brought out the tiny scarf and mittens she had once knit for a daughter who never came. They named the snow girl Faina and dressed her with quiet care, then turned and walked back inside to warm their empty hands. Morning broke, pale and quiet. The snow girl was gone, but there, pressed gently in the snow, were footprints, small, deliberate, leading into the woods. Jack crouched, fingers brushing the trail. "Could be an animal," he muttered. Mabel only stared. She came, she thought. The scarf was gone, the mittens were gone, but the ache in Mabel's chest had shifted, just slightly, like thaw beneath deep snow. Days passed, the tracks faded. Jack said no more, but Mabel began to walk the woods alone. One afternoon, beneath the bowed branches of a birch grove, she saw her, a flash of blue, pale hair glinting like spun frost. A girl, real and not, standing in a clearing. Their eyes met for a breath. The girl smiled, soft and quick. Then she was gone. "She's real," Mabel whispered, though there was no one to hear her. "She's real." Jack never mentioned the girl, not directly. But the next day, he carved a fox, careful and quiet, and left it near the trees. For days after, he left other small things: a handful of dried berries, a length of ribbon, a tiny wooden bird. One afternoon, the ribbon was gone, then the berries and the bird. And a few days later, so was the fox. Then one day, Jack saw her too. The girl stepped from between the trees, fox at her heel, hair tangled with snowlight. She held the carved toy in one hand, her blue scarf trailing like a shadow. "She's not made of snow," Jack thought. "She's made of something wilder, something stranger, something braver." She stayed in the woods that magical winter. Jack once found her sleeping beneath a pine bough, blanketed in snow. Mabel once saw her standing ankle-deep in a stream, bare feet in the icy current. But as soon as winter departed, so too did she. The couple spent the lonely summer months longing for the cold again. And when it came, she returned. The years passed like this. Faina remained small, unchanged. She was a creature of the elements, fierce and full of winter. She came with the snow and vanished with the thaw. Mabel and Jack never asked where she went, but one year the snow came, and Faina did not. Seasons came and went, year after year. Mabel grew quieter. Jack worked slower. The ache of her absence settled into their bones. But then, one morning, with snow falling soft as breath, Faina stepped from the trees. She was older now, but still otherworldly. And in her arms, she carried a child. The child stayed when Faina did not. Mabel wrapped him in wool and sang lullabies she thought she'd forgotten. Jack carved wooden animals, foxes and owls, deer and bears, and lined them on the hearth. The boy did not cry often. He watched the snow fall as if he knew its stories. "He is real," Mabel whispered, and so perhaps was she. Years passed. The boy grew. He played in the snow, built animals from sticks and stone, and sometimes, just sometimes, he turned his head as if someone had called his name. And in the distance, a figure moved across the ridge. Pale hair, blue scarf. A fox, red as flame, close behind. No one spoke of her, but they all saw her. Many years later, their son is grown and Jack is gone. Mabel still sits at her window. She dreams of a girl dancing through birch trees. If she was ever ours, Mabel thinks, it was in those quiet, snowy moments when sorrow became wonder and frozen hearts thawed. The end. The novel's setting, rural Alaska during the 1920s, is more than a backdrop. It becomes a character in its own right. Homesteading was still active, though the 1862 Homestead Act was passed much earlier. Many were still trying to prove up their land in Alaska well into the 1920s, often in unforgiving, isolated conditions. Winter was a true force of survival. Temperatures could drop to -40 degrees or lower, and farming in such a short, growing season required immense labour, hope, and luck. Families like Jack and Mabel's often failed, physically and emotionally. Alaska was not yet a state. It remained a US territory until 1959, and much of the region had little infrastructure. Mail could be seasonal, food scarce, and communities tightly knit or deeply lonely. Isolation bred resilience and stories. In a time before television or reliable roads, storytelling, myth, and oral tradition helped fill the long winters. Many settlers carried with them old country fairy tales, like the Snow Maiden, reshaped by the Alaskan landscape. In the bitter winter of Alaska in the 1920s, Jack and Mabel, a couple grieving the loss of their only child, struggled to survive both the harsh landscape and the colder silence between them. One snowy evening, in a moment of whimsy, they build a child from snow. The next morning, the snow girl is gone, and a mysterious young girl begins to appear in the woods nearby. The girl, Faina, is wild and elusive, surviving alone in the wilderness with a red fox at her side. As seasons pass, she forms an ethereal bond with Jack and Mabel, bringing warmth and wonder back into their lives. Yet questions linger. Is she real? A ghost? A manifestation of grief and longing? Loosely inspired by the Russian folktale of the Snow Maiden, Snegorochka, Eowyn Ivey's debut novel, The Snow Child, weaves magical realism with gritty frontier life. It explores love, loss, aging, and the mysterious space between imagination and reality. It reads like a fairy tale and is a fitting tribute to the poignant 19th century folk tale.